And there's been a lot of news that has been popping up since Brian Kelly has taken this job a lot from South Bend. And a lot of times when a coach leaves one place and goes to another, he will bring some staff with him. Not all the time, but sometimes that will happen. And in this case, it appears that a lot of the staff from Notre Dame is going to stay because Marcus Freeman, the defensive coordinator up there, looks to be the head coach in waiting and will be named the head coach here very shortly. Tommy Rees has already said to the team and publicly that he's going to continue to be the offensive coordinator there. So those are your two coordinators. Defensive line coach Mike Elston, who has been with Brian Kelly for 20 years, has decided that he's going to stay in South Bend as well. Strength coach Mike Bayless is a guy that Brian Kelly apparently made some overtures toward. He's staying in South Bend as well. Lance Taylor, the running back coach, running game coordinator, he's staying. So it looks like much of the staff is going to stay up there in South Bend. You can look at that and say, well, that's a terrible sign. The staff doesn't like him. Well, nobody came with Nick Saban from Michigan State either, and that seemed to work out pretty well with Jimbo Fisher and Derek Dooley and Kirby Smart and Will Muschamp, and he put together a pretty decent staff down here. But your thoughts on kind of what's going on up in South Bend?
Yeah, I think I listened to one of their players' podcasts. Hamilton, their safety, is probably going to be a top 5 pick next year. Yep. Everyone loves Notre Dame, man, and they kind of understand what Coach Kelly wanted to do, especially at this point in his career, and they've been very thankful for him for getting that Notre Dame program where they are. Obviously, another opportunity to go to another college football playoff. Notre Dame means a lot, especially to the people there. So that's no shocker there. I think it's one of the best programs in all of football, not just on the college level. So coaches wanted to stay there and continue to do something and continue to do what they keep building on what they've built. That's no shock for me. And I think I said it earlier this week. I have no quarrels with Coach Kelly finding the staff. Obviously, you can see the staff that he put together up there at Notre Dame, the Notre Dame faithful and Shorbert and the crew. They felt like that was more than enough for them to keep everything in-house. So it lets you know the staff that he put together up there. And I think he can do something similar down here because there's a lot of coordinators out there in college football right now. We got a nice chunk of change we can throw around. So I trust Coach Kelly that he'll find a staff here that'll definitely work for the Tigers.
That's for sure. That he's put together great staffs everywhere he's been, and that's part of his success. He's been such a winning head coach. So maybe the most foolhardy thing you can try to do is peg coordinators. There are tons of them, and you can find them just about anywhere, and you just don't know what coaches are going to do. You could pretty much take a list of about 15 guys and find LSU's next head football coach. Coordinator-wise, it's a much wider net. But look, we got 2 hours to fill, so let's chat about it. You probably have to find one on both sides of the ball. Now, you may not, and we'll talk about that as well. But let's start on offense. You look at Jake Peetz and what LSU's done this year, it's very doubtful that Jake Peetz, who's been a coordinator for all of one season, is going to be retained as the offensive coordinator on this team. So we think that he's going to go outside and grab one. 2 names, well, actually, one name jumps immediately to me, well, on the offensive side. And I have no idea if Brian Kelly would even talk to him. But we know that Ole Miss runs a hell of an offense, and Jeff Lebby is piloting that offense. And he makes $1.2 million a year. There's something to be said, I think, sometimes for spreading your wings from the head coach who's on your side of the ball. Again, I have no idea if he'd like to do it. Is that someone who would interest you as a guy I know that was championing Lane Kiffin as the head coach here?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I love what they're doing at Ole Miss. I think when you really just go back and just look at the recruiting classes Ole Miss has kind of put together, especially the last 2 or 3 years, not many 5 stars, not many 4 stars. They're out there, obviously dealing with the injuries they dealt with this year and still being one of the high-powered offenses in the SEC. And what I look for is, can you make it easy for your players? Can you get guys wide open? Can you make it easy for your backs? Can you get them on the second level? Watching Ole Miss in the run game and the pass game all year long, they find innovative ways to get their guys the ball in space and making plays. So if we bought an offense like that to Baton Rouge with all the athletes we have and all the receivers we have on the outside, which I think we just outclass them at, I would love that. I think that would be a great hire for Coach Kelly.
Mike Bobo has been around this conference for a very long time. He was at Georgia for a while when Aaron Murray was the offensive coordinator, was the quarterback there. He was just let go at Auburn. Is that someone you're interested in? He's had a lot of experience calling plays in this league.
For the experience factor, but it's not a name that's going to get me on this table, got to get me trying to do some cartwheels in here. I've kind of seen those offenses kind of stall out. More a little old school approach. I think kind of more of that Jimbo style of offense, a little more spread, but more traditional, less RPOs, less innovative plays, less trick plays. I like Bobo, but I think Kelly's going to find someone with a little more polish than that.
All right, here's a name that I'd never heard of before this morning, but I did some research, and it's pretty impressive. Warren Ruggiero. Probably don't know who that is. He's Wake Forest offensive coordinator. Now, I go to his bio. Over the last 3 seasons, he's directed one of the most prolific offenses in all of college football. Demon Deacons have set or tied over 300 offensive records in the last 3 years. That's pretty impressive. Since the start of 2017, Wake's 103 touchdown passes are the third most in the ACC in any 4-year period in school history. He also was at Kansas State. Josh Freeman was a first-round pick under his direction there, and he was Colin Klein's offensive coordinator, who was a finalist for the Heisman Trophy. I don't know if that was the sexiest offense I ever saw, but he got some production out of both of those guys, and they've put up a lot of points at Wake Forest. Kansas State and Wake Forest don't exactly have a bunch of gazelles running around out there, and he's put up some points. Is that a name? He's a Broyles Awards semifinalist this year, which is where I found him. Anything for Warren Ruggiero?
Look, watching Wake Forest play this year, they go really, really fast. And if you come and bring all the speed and talent and athletes we have with that type of speed, we kind of saw a Tennessee program this year. Not anything to smile about, not anything to talk and bring home and talk to the family about. Just very not impressive. We saw what Heupel bringing that tempo, that pace, making defenses tired for a full game, and you could continue to do that, and you continue to put those athletes in space time and time again. You're gonna score some points. So Warren, I think that would be a guy that probably didn't know much about before, but watching Wake Forest play this season and the amount of points they scored, he's put together their 4 highest scoring seasons in school history. You got to respect that. So yeah, I wouldn't mind that name either.
Here's a name. Dan Mullen.
Yeah, my man.
What do you think about that?
Darth Vader, baby. Yeah. I wouldn't mind little Darth Vader here in Baton Rouge, man. Look, the only thing with Dan that gets me a little worried is the recruiting factor. How motivated is he going to be for recruiting? And obviously we know how important the quarterback position is, especially in college football. We've seen what a quarterback can do in Baton Rouge. Tiger fans, don't forget that. But I like Mullen, man. He's put up some points against our defense, even losing it in back-to-back years. They're putting up points. I watch those Florida teams, and they can. He's innovative. He's one of those innovative guys. I saw him in Baton Rouge this year, just getting guys wide open.
That was a show in the second half.
Yeah, they were drawing some stuff up, some misdirection stuff, and those are the type of things I said. Make it easy for your players. Don't make them have to, fight an uphill battle all game, running their head against the wall. That's what I like to see my coordinators do. So Dan Mullen, man, yeah, come down to Baton Rouge, man.
So on your recruiting thing with Dan Mullen, he would not be motivated to recruit, and he probably wouldn't do a ton of it because he wouldn't be here more than a year or 2 max. If he even showed up. This is all hypothetical, but we're just having fun. This would be a Nick Saban rehabilitation clinic type deal. So if he just wants to come here for 1 year, chill out, call plays for a year, and then put his toe back in the water, I would be okay with that, quite honestly, because I think he's that good a play caller and that good a quarterback developer. I think that would be great. That's just spitballing those guys. So that's kind of my short list on the offensive side. Now let's talk a little bit about defense. One name here jumps off the page at me. Mike Elko.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that. He's at Texas A&M. He's worked with Brian Kelly previously at Notre Dame. That's where they hired him from. He's making $2.1 million. They have made him a highly paid man because he has done a good job over there. Would he be willing to jump from Jimbo Fisher's staff to here at Brian Kelly? I certainly would love that. It would make A&M crazy, and we'd have a good defensive coordinator. You'd have to pony up some dough. I think they've got that. But what do you think there's a chance that he would jump from A&M to here?
I think so. I think you toss around 3.1, maybe 3.5 with incentives to a coach. It's hard to turn down, man, especially when these opportunities don't come far and far between. I love what he's done at A&M. Obviously, their offense hasn't backed them all year, but their defense has been so consistent, man. Teams aren't just going 40, 50 on them. They're playing solid. They obviously they have the recruits to do it, but I think Elko coming in to Baton Rouge and teaming back up with Coach Kelly, I would love that hire, and I can probably think about 3.5 million reasons why.
So yeah, if they give a coordinator $3.5 million, the whole place is going to erupt. I don't know if they're going to go that high with it, but that would be interesting. A cheaper name here, but a guy who's done an excellent job this year. Jim Knowles at Oklahoma State, their defensive coordinator. They have been as good as just about anybody, and for a Big 12 team to do that is saying something. He makes $800,000.
Mm-hmm.
If that's something you want to dip into, you could certainly give him a healthy pay raise.
Oh yeah, you definitely could, and that's what I felt going into the Bedlam game. Oklahoma State's defense. Would Oklahoma be able to, score time and time again with that Lincoln Riley offense, be able to scheme guys up and make it easy for their quarterback? And, man, Oklahoma State, when they needed it the most, they got stops, and that's exactly what their defensive coordinator brought to the table. I think, obviously, with the pay he's getting right now, you don't have to go as high as you would have to for Elko to pry him out of A&M. So that's a name that I definitely wouldn't be upset with either.
Saved, Dan Mullen for last on the offensive side. How about this name on the defensive side? Durante Jones. Durante Jones this year, and after the bye week, Bama, who averaged 42.5 points a game, he held them to 20. He held them 184 yards under their season average and had 4 sacks in that game. Arkansas averaged 30.5. He held them to 13. It's 18 points below their season average. Held them under 300 yards at 283. That was 157 yards below their season average on offense. They had 3 sacks in that game. And against A&M, held them 5 points under their season average, held them to 24 points. Held them at 296 yards. That was 95 yards off their pace. Had 4 sacks in that game as well. After the bye, this defense, which was crippled by injuries, played pretty well.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind Durante. And I think I said that, all season we were both pounding the table. Why are we so vanilla? Why are we so vanilla? Why aren't we just running the same play over and over and over on defense? And the second that changed, you saw this defense make a huge leap. And I think for him, being the first year doing it, obviously you got to go through your ups and downs. You got to go through your hurdles. But I think when he kind of had that thing figured out and we're trotting out our B and C team guys out there, we got the immortal Pig Cage out there playing DB. We played lights out, man. And that's exactly what we were accustomed to seeing at LSU. And I think having the relationship with the players that he's got to develop for a year, obviously being able to keep the Corey Raymonds and know some of these, knowing Blake's going to come back, knowing some of these coaches are going to come back on this staff, I think that'd be huge. I think it'd be a breath of fresh air for the players. I think the biggest thing that I saw, they got motivated to play, man. I think a lot of times we didn't kind of feel like our defense showed up. They showed up the latter half of that season, and I think Durante Jones was a big part of that, scheming them up, keeping them motivated, and keeping them in position to make plays. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind Durante as well.
I think LSU will be just fine on the coordinator front. He's going to take some time and get those guys in place. Everyone talking about Tommy Rees as this, offensive, brilliant guru. Look, this is a team in total offense over the last 2 years since he's been piloting the ship. 26th in the country and 56th in the country in total offense. And then in scoring offense, 30th and 21st. It ain't like they're setting the world on fire up in South Bend. I think he's probably a fine coach. He's 29 years old, probably learning a bunch, and I think he maybe has a good relationship with Brian Kelly, and I wouldn't have thought that was a disaster, but this isn't Bill Walsh that just walked out the door on you, so I think LSU will be just fine.